Welcome to Leave It on the Court. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Corey Randall.
And this is Mustafa.
So in the NBA, we have, playoffs right around the corner. And, the specific team and coach, that stand out, that have a lot of eyes on them, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. Do I feel like Mike Budenholzer's in the hot seat? I definitely do. Mike Budenholzer has, led the Bucks to being a great team, great regular season team. Last two seasons, they've been a number one seed. And this season, they're a number 3 seed. In the last 3 seasons now, they've led the league in scoring, but it seems like they fail once the playoffs come around. One of the biggest things is he doesn't really seem like he's making adjustments. Once the playoffs come around, it's easy to game plan for teams when you have a whole 7-game series. And that's one of the issues is he just runs through Giannis and doesn't seem like he makes any real adjustments when it comes to, utilizing the rest of the team and figuring things out when other teams are making adjustments to be able to defend the Bucks and making things a lot easier. So what's your take when it comes to him, like being in the hot seat and just how he's been coaching the Bucks overall?
Just like you said, he's been a very good. They've been very good in the regular season, but in the playoffs they have trouble. Part of it was, they gave up too much 3-point shots in the past, and you play against teams in the playoffs. A lot of these teams that they face, such as the Miami Heat and others that, could really shoot the ball. That's for one. I believe Milwaukee has given him a lot of chances over the years, and they felt like that he was the answer once they hired him on, and they gave him quite some time to figure it out, and they've been putting talent together, but it's just nothing's really sticking where it's like, all right, this makes sense and we're getting the most out of our teams. And another thing too that puts him, that really lights the fire under that seat is the fact that you got coaches like Monty Williams, Tom Thibodeau, who are like coach. Monty Williams, coach of the year, and you got Tom Thibodeau, who was a runner-up. And look at the kind of talent that Tom Thibodeau was playing with and what he got out of that team. So, obviously GMs are looking at that, presidents are looking at that and saying, well, if a guy, if a guy is coaching a team that does not have per se the superstar, that most of the teams in the East or the West have, and he doesn't have the same kind of talent, like why is this team overachieving? And in our guys, it just seems like seems like the same thing, the same song you singing every year.
Yeah, it's like, when it comes to a team that is very, very predictable, and the engine of a team, if you just take the engine out of that team and they don't have another person who can really be of any help in that regard, it's just gonna be easy to take down. And just like you said, with giving up 3-pointers last season, that was one of the dumbest things that I could see them do defensively when that's your defensive game plan for everybody. And that was like, you playing against the Heat last season. The Heat were like basically the best 3-point shooting team last season. You can't just say, oh, I'm gonna just guard the paint, let them shoot. All right, let us shoot and you're gonna lose. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you look at against the Raptors 2 seasons ago in the playoffs and the conference finals, against the Raptors, you have you're up 2-0, and Nick Nurse was like, you know what, let me go in my bag and do a little something different. I'm not going to be sheep like all these other people and just do the same thing over and over. Let me do a little something different. Then he went to 1-3-1 zone, doing all these different zones that was like really making it difficult for Bucks to score, because Giannis couldn't just be like, a bull that sees red and just runs through everything. And even with the Heat, they built a wall with Jay Crowder and Bam and Jimmy Butler to really defend in that regard. And it just seems like he doesn't make much of these changes. And I wonder if it's really going to be much of a difference with having, I know Jrue Holiday is a better offensive player than Eric Bledsoe. They got PJ Tucker, Bobby Portis, Bryn Forbes, and all that kind of stuff. But I really think that they could end up losing to the Heat yet again in the first round, because the Heat should not be a 6 seed. They just had COVID issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. Because I don't know, he has to make the adjustments, and if he hasn't in the past, I don't know if he will now. Maybe he will, because obviously he's in a hot seat. Because I don't believe they lose in the playoffs again this year that he's coming back. I don't believe so. And Miami Heat, they're just gonna, what they're gonna do. The normal thing is, pack the paint, make it very difficult for Giannis, because that's the engine. He's literally everything for that team. And I think that's where the mistake has been made. I just believe that they have not utilized Chris Middleton well, and they have not really utilized Eric Bledsoe. Jrue Holiday in a way that I feel that is really conducive for this team to be dominant the way they need to be dominant. So that's just how I believe it.
So what is your, for him, like being the coach, what would be kind of your bar to be like, we could still use this guy another season or for the future? Like, do you think if Bucks make it to the conference finals and lost to like the Nets or something, that he's for sure out? If they made it to the finals, he's out? Or do you think there's like really no leeway here unless they go to the finals and win or something?
You see, this is the thing. It's not cut and dry. A lot of times when a coach is on a hot seat, they're looking at many things. It's not just wins and losses.
Right.
Because those are the results obviously you want. Everybody wants to win, and that's pretty obvious. But it's how you lose and how you win it.
Mm-hmm.
So in his specific scenario is they're gonna take a look just like I mentioned earlier. How is Jrue Holiday playing? What type of level is he playing at? What kind of adjustments can he make for Chris Middleton? Because this team it just goes to show that I don't think that Mike Budenholzer is the complete, the kind of coach that really gets the most out of his guards. Because it's kind of, and like from when you look at the comparison, right, from Eric Bledsoe and you compare it to Jrue Holiday, as far as creativity, like you're not, as far as the flow of the offense, you're not really noticing, the guard play. I think they need to take the ball out of Giannis's hand a little bit more. Take the ball out of his hand, utilize Chris Middleton. Put him in a situation where you have a multitude of options in one set. If Chris Middleton grabs a rebound, he's coming up the court. Have do a double drag, do something. Have him run pick and roll with Giannis. Just do something that is gonna, the defense is not gonna expect. And with that being said, it's like the whole season, the whole few years that been passed, it's like Chris Middleton has to fight for buckets. He's never really, and especially in the playoffs, like you gotta make sure you put everybody in position to succeed, and that has to be shown.
Yeah, and I think with Chris Middleton too, like you said, fighting for buckets. I think he would be in a more successful position if he's getting a lot more like off-ball action with some catch and shoots, because he can shoot. But instead, it's like you just having Giannis do ISOs and running through and doing all that kind of stuff. It's like, put this dude in, have him rolling to the hoop and being able to have more ball movement. But at least they got Bryn Forbes now. I'm not sure if Jeff Teague's gonna be much of a factor. They got PJ Tucker. So it'll be, I don't know what to expect in this first round. Like, they could really, really, really lose.
Yeah, I think so too, man. It's just like we stated earlier, man. It's the adjustments that are being made and how this team is playing. If they're flowing on all cylinders, they go to game 7, they lose. It's a 50-50 chance. There's no sure bet, but it's how he win and how he lose.
And I remember when they just had played Nets back to back in Milwaukee. There's no, Harden, of course, but there were some writers who were watching this game. They're like, man, look how great the Bucks defense was against the Nets. Like, they're looking like they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. So I'm like, y'all say this every year. Every year. You could have said that last year too. Last year they running through people. But it's just when it comes down to it, it's just they defensively, I mean, they're always solid. It's just the offensive end. Like, are you going to be able to do enough? Because they just keep falling off in that regard.
Yeah, the key is going to be guard play. Is how Mike decides to for guard play. It's going to be the determining factor of how far they go.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. So you guys don't forget, like this video, subscribe, so we can get into the algorithm. We're trying to grow this show. We want to grow our personalities, the brand. And I think you guys can help us with that.
Make sure you guys comment as well. Put some comments of your feedback.